All right, here's some news I feel a little connected to, and it's that ESPN will be pulling the bottom line for college football games this season. And this is a perfect opportunity for me to pull the curtain back on this subject a little bit because I used to work on the bottom line 3 years as an editor and senior editor. And I get why the network is doing this. One, because I do think it makes for a better experience, a better viewing experience for fans when the bottom line is out. It's less distractions on the screen, more space for the actual game, right? That's why I never had a problem when we did it in the past. And also because it was so infrequent that the headache of it all was bearable. We only really pulled the bottom line for like Monday Night Football and the NBA Conference Finals, right? Like it wasn't a lot, big events like that. But let me be clear about something. It was a headache, all right? And I don't pretend to speak for the current crew there. I don't know how many people I used to work with are still there. I'm sure it's still a few, or even my old coworkers. But this sounds like a heavy, heavy lift for college football. It's not to say it's impossible. This is what the editors get paid for, but it will be stressful. And here's why. The first thing you have to understand about the bottom line is that it never stops running, right? Never. Even when it's not on air and we pull it, it's still scrolling somewhere in the background and it's still being updated by the editors. That's constantly, except for the few hours between the last person who leaves at night and the first person who gets there in the morning. It's constantly being updated. That way, when it's time to pop it back on air, it's already up to date, right? There's not much to do. Not to mention, just because it's not running on ESPN doesn't mean it won't be on ESPN2 or ESPN News, right? Like, there's usually a bottom line always running somewhere. So that's one thing the editors are always doing is updating the bottom line. All right. And also troubleshooting any issues that pop up with that main bottom line. The other thing you have to understand is that the bottom line still serves two purposes, at least in theory. One is obviously to update people on the news, stats, and all the games they aren't watching. You might be watching one game, you want to know the score in another game, you can see it on the bottom line. That's obviously less of a concern today in 2026, which is probably why ESPN feels more comfortable doing this now. They're assuming people are getting that information anyway from their phones now, which they probably are. I feel like that was a battle we were fighting even when I started on Bottom Line in 2016 was just, the attention of people who might be getting some of this information from phones and alerts and Twitter and, all the things, tablets, devices. But the second purpose of the bottom line is to make money for the company, right? If you notice in the right corner of the bottom line, there's usually some type of ad or sponsor always there. And that's my guess why this didn't happen sooner, why they didn't want to pull the bottom line from college football games, even though people might have been asking for them to do this in the past. Because they still want to be able to promote stuff and make money there. And if you're a sponsor, you want to be placed under events with the most eyeballs, under shows with the most eyeballs. Whatever's on air, you want to be placed under whatever has the most eyeballs, which is usually live events, college football. Which takes us to why pulling the bottom line is going to be an especially difficult lift for college football. Because when you pull the bottom line, those sponsorship obligations don't go away. The execution of it just changes to an update format. And those updates are really annoying to execute. Like they really are. Because one, the updates are different than the regular bottom line that we're still updating throughout the day. Don't forget the main bottom line, that's still being updated, but the actual update playlist that you're gonna pop in maybe once a quarter, that you have to build that from scratch manually. You have to build that playlist from scratch, and then you have to manually input the sponsors that go along with that playlist for each update. And then once you have it built out, you have to call master control to actually insert the update playlist in at the correct time. Because us bottom line editors, we didn't. I can't speak. It's been a few years since I've been there, but we didn't have the ability to just pull the bottom line from the air. That power belonged to Master Control, which is in a completely different room on a completely different floor, maybe a different building. It's been a while since I've been there. I don't remember the layout of that place. But what I do remember is we communicated with Master Control through some kind of intercom system at our desk, and you called them to pull the bottom line, and then you had a schedule that you had to follow for the sponsor, and you would call them back at the right time at the schedule to pop the update in there. The update would finish, and then you would have them pull it out. And you do that about 5 times throughout the game, right? Like a 4-quarter game, you might do it once a quarter, and then pick one, maybe like the second quarter, you do it twice. And then if there's breaking news, you're going to pop that in there for breaking. That's just for the sponsorship obligations. But if there's breaking news that you think people might need to know, then you're calling them to do that, just out the blue, so that you can keep people up to date. Because, again, the bottom line in our minds still serves the purpose of keeping people informed. All right. And then you have to hope Master Control isn't too busy with all the stuff they have going on, or that can throw off your whole rhythm, right? Because we're only speaking about what the bottom line editors have to do. Master Control got their own thing going on too. And so all of that has to line up to get those updates going. I can't tell you how many times we missed or almost missed a sponsored update because of some tech issue or just getting wrapped up in other work, like updating that main bottom line playlist that might be running somewhere else, or even just trying to sneak in a break, right? Just trying to go to the cafeteria to grab a drink or something, and that was just for one event a night. Now the editors are being asked to do updates for college football, which will have multiple games happening simultaneously in a single day. Like, just looking at week 1 of the college football season, the first Saturday, you've got 3 games on ABC alone, 4 games on ESPN, 3 on ESPNU, 3 on ACC Network, 3 on SEC Network. That's 16 games in one day that need updates. Do I have that number right? 16? Yeah. Maybe that's 13. Maybe I added an extra 3 there that's not there. Oh no, yeah, because the ABC. Yep, 16. So how this will be executed on the back end is very interesting to me. Because updates were so infrequent before that we just didn't have a lot of editors who were experienced in doing it. From building the update playlist, finding the proper sponsor, plugging it in. Like, putting the sponsor in was actually like finding a code and typing the code into the back end, calling Master Control at the correct time, sticking to the schedule until the game is actually over. My guess is they'll do one of 2 things. Either they'll train up more editors to do updates and just assign one editor to one network per shift. And that's another thing you have to remember. There will be shift changes in between all this. So on the early shift, you might say, hey, you handle updates on ESPN, you handle updates on ESPNU, you handle SEC Network, and so on and so forth. And then do the same thing for the late shift. Or I guess they could just pick 1 or 2 editors per shift and have them handle all the updates for all the networks, right? This editor might do 3 networks. That editor do 3 networks on the first shift. Second shift, you get another person who does 3, and 3. And then just let all the other editors who aren't doing updates just focus on keeping the main bottom line updated. The main bottom lines, I should say, because that's another thing. All the bottom line, all the networks have their own. Like, for the most part, you can duplicate them and have them run across each network, but you might want to change it up for a specific network. SEC Network, for example, you're going to want to make that more SEC specific, right? And I'm telling y'all, our experience as fans on this end of the TV should be great. We'll get our college football without all the clutter and distractions. We'll get these compact updates that can still be really informative. But I'll be thinking about my friends on the other side because this sounds like an easy way to have those editors burnt out every Saturday. This is not a normal workflow on that job. And that's before we get into the college football games on Thursdays and Fridays and whatever other days they might be taking place on. And yeah, that's just a little bit of the workflow of the bottom line. It sounds nice and a nice little news headline. Hey, ESPN is pulling the bottom line. That's a lot harder to execute than it sounds.